There's a strange moment that happens every morning, and most people miss it completely. Your eyes open, the room comes back into focus, and for a few quiet seconds, you haven't fully remembered who you were yesterday. There's no problem yet, no unfinished conversation, no number in a bank account, no relationship status, no old disappointment sitting on your chest. You're simply there. Then memory rushes in. You reach for the phone, check the time, see a notification, remember the thing you're waiting for. And almost instantly, yesterday's version of you puts its clothes back on. Same thoughts, same tension, same inner story. Before your feet even touch the floor, the old state has already reclaimed the day. And maybe you know that feeling better than you'd like to admit. You can spend 20 minutes at night imagining the life you want, feeling calm, loved, secure, successful, free. For a little while, it feels completely real. Then life happens. Someone doesn't reply. A bill shows up. You catch your reflection on a bad day. Plans change. Suddenly, the state you felt so clearly the night before seems miles away. You start wondering whether you did something wrong, whether you need a stronger technique, more affirmations, a better visualization. But the deeper issue usually isn't your technique. It's where you return when you're no longer trying. Picture a house with one room beautifully renovated, while every other room is left untouched. For 1 hour a day, you sit in the beautiful room. You love the light, the warmth, the way everything feels. But for the other 23 hours, you live in the old part of the house and keep wondering why your whole home doesn't feel different. Staying in your desired state 24/7 doesn't mean forcing yourself to sit in one emotional room every second. It means gradually renovating the whole house, your mornings, your inner conversations, your reactions, your expectations, even the state you carry into sleep. Eventually, the new room isn't somewhere you visit anymore. It becomes where you live. Most people try to change their state the way they'd hold a beach ball underwater. Push hard enough and it stays beneath the surface for a while. Stop pushing, even for a second, and it shoots right back up. That's what happens when you're trying to stay positive through sheer effort. You repeat the right words, correct every thought, watch yourself constantly, and for a while you feel in control. Then you get tired. Your attention goes somewhere else. One uncomfortable message arrives and there it is, the old fear, the old identity, the old certainty that nothing has really changed. You don't need stronger hands on the beach ball. You need to stop fighting the water. The real work is deeper. You're changing what feels normal. Your desired state isn't supposed to feel like a costume you put on when you meditate. It's supposed to become familiar enough that you forget you're wearing it. Think about any identity you already hold without effort. Maybe you know you're good at something. Nobody has to remind you every 2 hours. You don't wake up and affirm it 50 times. You simply move from that knowing. If someone disagrees, their opinion might annoy you, but it doesn't erase what you know about yourself. Desired states become powerful in the same way, not because you scream them louder, but because you stop treating them like fragile ideas that need constant protection. So start with a question that sounds almost too simple. Who would you be if the thing you want no longer felt uncertain? Not what would you own, not what would appear on your phone. Who would you be? Maybe you'd breathe more slowly. Maybe you'd stop checking for proof every 15 minutes. Maybe you'd quit reading silence as rejection. Maybe you'd walk into a room without secretly asking everyone there to confirm your worth. Notice how subtle the shift is. A fulfilled state often isn't dramatic. It can feel almost ordinary, quiet, settled, like finally hearing a refrigerator stop humming after you'd gotten so used to the noise that you forgot it was there. Morning is where you begin teaching your mind that new normal. Before the world gets a vote, give yourself 60 seconds. Don't grab the phone. Don't inspect yesterday. Don't start measuring how far you still have to go. Stay still and remember who you've decided to be. Feel the version of you for whom the desire is no longer a question. then get out of bed from there. Not as someone chasing love, but as someone who lives from being loved. Not as someone desperately pursuing security, but as someone learning to move like security is already part of their identity. That first minute won't control your entire day by magic. What it does is set a direction. And once direction is set, the next challenge appears naturally. How do you keep from wandering back into the old road without realizing it? You probably have an inner narrator you barely notice anymore. It comments while you brush your teeth, while you drive, while you wait for a reply, while you look at prices, while you compare yourself to someone online. It's fast, casual, convincing. Of course this happened. People always leave. Money disappears as soon as it comes. Something's probably wrong. Maybe you're just not meant for that kind of life. Most of these thoughts don't arrive with thunder. They slip in wearing slippers, familiar, domestic, almost comforting in a strange way, because even painful beliefs can feel safe when they've been around long enough. Here's where staying in your desired state becomes less mystical and much more practical. You don't need to chase every thought with a broom. You only need to notice the direction your inner conversation keeps pointing. Imagine driving with the steering wheel tilted 3 degrees to the left. For a few seconds, nothing dramatic happens. Keep driving long enough though, and you end up far from where you meant to go. Inner conversation works like that. One fearful thought isn't the issue. Repeated identity-level conclusions are, nothing works for me. I'm always overlooked. I never have enough. Those aren't passing clouds anymore. They're coordinates. Change the coordinates and your choices, attention, expectations, and emotional responses begin changing with them. So when you catch the old voice, don't turn it into a courtroom. No cross-examination, no guilt, no great, ruined it again. A harsh reaction only creates another old state conversation. Redirect instead, softly. If your mind says, "What if they don't choose me?" you might answer, "You don't need to beg for what matches you." If it says, "There's never enough," shift toward, "You're learning to expect support instead of shortage." If something goes wrong and the old identity whispers, "See, same story," answer, "One moment doesn't get to define the whole direction." The exact words matter less than the identity they come from. You're not trying to hypnotize yourself with pretty sentences. You're teaching your mind to think from a different home. A simple rhythm can help while that new home is still under construction. Every couple of hours, stop for 10 seconds and ask, where am I living from right now? Not, am I perfectly happy? You won't be. Not, did I have a negative thought? Of course you did. Ask something more useful. Am I relating to life as the person who has or the person who is still waiting to become? Then adjust. 10 seconds. No ceremony. You may discover that half the day passed while you were mentally rehearsing disappointment. Fine. Return. Over time, something interesting happens. You start noticing the drift sooner. First after hours, then after minutes. Eventually, in the middle of the thought itself. And right around there, life usually presents the hardest lesson of all. What to do when the outer world seems to argue with everything you've been practicing. Anyone can feel powerful while nothing is challenging them. The real test comes when the email says no, when the number is lower than expected, when plans fall apart, when somebody acts in a way that seems to confirm the fear you've been trying to leave behind. Those moments can feel brutally persuasive because circumstances have weight. They're visible, tangible, right there in front of you. A desired state, meanwhile, can feel like something invisible you're being asked to trust. So naturally the mind says, look at the evidence, stop fooling yourself. And sometimes, yes, practical action is needed. Pay the bill, make the call, have the conversation, see the doctor. Staying in a desired state was never meant to become denial. What changes is the meaning you assign to what happens. One storm doesn't define the climate. One rejection doesn't reveal your entire future. One awkward week doesn't become your identity unless you keep giving it that job. Circumstances are information, not commandments. You can respond to what's in front of you without crawling back inside the old story. Suppose you've spent months becoming someone who feels worthy of healthy love, and then somebody pulls away. Old identity says, "There, proof, you're not wanted." New identity can feel the disappointment and still say, "Someone else's behavior doesn't get to decide who you are." Same event, completely different inner home. Think of a ship correcting course in heavy wind. The captain doesn't pretend the wind isn't there. That would be absurd. The captain reads it, adjusts the sails, and keeps the destination. Your desired state works the same way. You acknowledge the facts without handing them authority over your identity. Yes, this happened. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it needs attention. And no, it doesn't decide who you're becoming. That sentence carries more stability than 100 forced affirmations because it doesn't require you to lie to yourself. You're not trying to erase reality. You're refusing to let one frame become the whole movie. Then night arrives, and night matters more than people realize. Not because sleep is some magical loophole, but because whatever you rehearse before sleep tends to linger. So don't spend your final conscious minutes dragging the day's worst moments into bed with you. Review gently. Where did you stay grounded? Where did you get pulled back into the old state? What triggered it? Celebrate the returns, not just the perfect moments. Every time you noticed yourself spiraling and chose a steadier interpretation, something changed. Then let the day close. Feel the version of you who no longer needs to chase proof. Let that identity become the last emotional note of the night. Morning and evening now begin to meet each other, and somewhere between them, practice slowly turns into something far more important. At first, staying in your desired state feels like remembering. You remember in the morning, forget at lunch, catch yourself in the afternoon, lose it during a difficult conversation, return before dinner, forget again, return before sleep. Messy, human, completely normal, but every return leaves a small mark, like footsteps across the same field. Walk the path often enough, and eventually the grass stops growing over it. A trail appears. Keep walking, and one day you realize you're no longer searching for the way. Your feet know it, your mind knows it, your nervous system knows it. What once required effort has become familiar. You're no longer practicing confidence, security, love, worth, abundance, peace. You're beginning to recognize them as parts of who you are. So give yourself 7 days, not 7 days of perfection, 7 days of returning. Wake up and choose the state before the world chooses one for you. Listen to your inner conversation. Check your direction throughout the day. When circumstances challenge you, respond to what needs responding to without surrendering your identity. And before sleep, come home to the version of you who no longer lives in constant waiting. If you drift 100 times, return 101. That quiet return is the whole secret. Eventually, the state you once struggled to hold becomes the place you naturally stand. And when that happens, staying there 24/7 no longer feels like discipline. It feels like being yourself.